Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad that you could join us today. I'm really excited to share this conversation with you. I think it's so important as we are embarking on or walking through this midlife time, right? This perimenopausal transitional time that's so important for our hormonal health. We call this a critical window because our body's remodeling so much. But there are some different issues that come up in this season. And one of the big heavy hitter ones is a typical weight gain, right? Or even this thinking that our body is going to look different because we've navigated through perimenopause. So I'm super excited to introduce you all to a special guest today. If you're new here, I'm Rita Johnson. I'm the owner of Health and Hormones, and here you'll find all things fatigue solutions, period help, and everything in between. Let's dive in. So today I want to introduce you to a very amazing new friend of mine that I'm so excited to share with you all. Her name is Mo, and Mo is a certified personal trainer. She's a menopause fitness specialist, a nutrition coach, and founder of Alpha Mama, an online coaching program created specifically for midlife and menopausal women with a particular heart for women, mothers of large families. Welcome, Mo.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
All right. So we are just going to dive right into this today, you guys, because we were kind of talking a little bit beforehand and talking about how, this season in particular is just so ripe with, frustrations and confusion and so many things that we're just not quite sure how do we transverse this from here. So I first want to start, Mo, by just talking about what are some things that kind of brought you into this space?
Okay. So, my story, I had my last baby. I was 42. So I was kind of in this weird place where I didn't realize it at the time, but I was postpartum and perimenopausal at the same time. But of course, I had no idea that I was perimenopausal. Here's what I did know. I was at my heaviest weight. I was waking up every morning sore, tired. I didn't have the energy for my littles as I did when I was when I had my older kids, kind of in my 20s and my early 30s. And I was very aware that I wasn't the same active, engaged mom that I was for my bigs. And so I wanted to fix it. And this is why I kind of got into this space, because my initial inclination was that I was trying to fix it without disrupting anything else. So I would try skipping meals. I would try cutting out carbs. I would try coming into the gym and just going really, really hard. And none of it worked. And it just left me heavier, sore, depressed, and really feeling like, I guess it's just been too long since I've taken care of myself. I guess this is just what happens when you get older. It's just what happens when you've had so many babies. It's just part of being a woman. And I think the problem when we say that is that then we stop investigating what's going on underneath. It just becomes this is just the way it is. And we had seen it maybe with our mothers and our grandmothers, and that's kind of where I was at. This is just the way it is now. And I had gone to my doctor for some help with some perimenopausal symptoms, and I was offered an IUD, which I didn't want to take. And the response to me then was, well, just come back when you're ready for the IUD. And I left feeling very, very broken and very alone. Like, this is it. This is just the rest of my life. And then my daughter said something to me I was talking to her on the phone as I was driving home. And she said, this can't be it, right? Like, if the IUD is the only answer, then God has another one. And I thought, you know what, girl, you're so right. And so I went back and I just started walking. And my first walk, I got to the end of my driveway. I do not have an impressively long driveway. I got to the end of my driveway and I had to turn around and come back. And I climbed into my bed and I cried for about 2 hours because that's as far as I could go. And I say that just so that women know that that was my starting point. When I first started strength training and I started with a trainer, they strapped me up to do my first squat because there was no way I was going down and coming back on my own. And so I think this is where I got very passionate about it, because as I slowly got stronger, as I slowly started giving myself permission to kind of take up space in my own life and learn how to fuel my body properly with nutrition and stop being at war with my body all the time, which that's what I realized I was doing, right? I was always at war with my body. But I still thought that I was alone in this. I still thought, well, if this was a big problem, other people would be talking about it, right? So this must still just be me. And then slowly other women came up to me and started asking me, like, how did you do this with all of the kids? Because of course, I'm also a homeschooling mom, so I had all of my kids at home, and they're like, how did you drop 80 pounds? How did you get into this shape with this family and everything else going on? And it was like, you know what? There is a need to start talking about these things a little more openly and be a little vulnerable and admit that, yeah, I had pelvic floor problems for a few years. And when I started talking about that, other women were like, oh, me too. Can we talk about this? So that's kind of the start of this journey.
I love that. I love that. And I love too that you bring up not only your own, like, how do I do this without disrupting anything else in my life? But also I do think that there's that element of like, those of us that are able to prioritize physical health amidst a lot, and especially when we just look in from the outside, right, which is all we ever can do to each other. But we see, here's a big family, they homeschool, she's running a business, she's doing all this, and she's physically fit. How in the world does that possibly work? And there can be this element too of envy, or even this like, I can't even begin to understand, and so I won't. Then there's like a withdrawal. But there's also this element of, are you really embracing your cross, or are you doing the things that you shouldn't be doing in this season of life? Are you abdicating, the children or their homeschool for your physical fitness? How vain, right? So let's talk about that a little more, like getting to that place for you. And what was it? Maybe let's talk a little more about in that space you were in. What was it about not wanting to disrupt anything else, like that felt stuck, and something that you can look back on and be like, that was it. That was what was going on.
Yeah, I think there was a lot. Like I talk a lot about the family systems and this idea that my entire family was run. I ran it. I built these systems. I'm not blaming my husband or my kids. Like, I built these systems where I became the absorber of everything. I was emotionally managed. I was scanning everything. Who needs what? Who's, soccer signups are due, and all of these things. And I was running that. And I was the easiest thing to push off the to-do list when life got crazy and chaotic. And it was like, okay, my walk will wait. My workout will wait, because the kids need me, because, this needs to be done in the house. And you're right. There was a lot of guilt about taking this time for myself and coming out and doing a half-hour walk, or changing how I was eating and things like that. And I still struggle with it. Like, we're years in, and I'm out here sometimes training in person, and I still get this pull because I still have children at home who are schooling. I should be in there with them. But I will tell you what I learned is, and I don't let it take over my life. This is a piece of what helps build my life. I am able to show up for my younger kids now in a way that I couldn't do 10 years ago.
Yeah.
We went to a theme park on the weekend, and I was on the rides with them, and we did like 20,000 steps. 5 years ago, I never would have gotten on the ride. I wouldn't have done it. I would have sat somewhere on a park bench and just watched. So it's that perspective of, yes, I'm taking some time,
Yeah.
but it's getting the return on investment in terms of like reinvesting that in my relationship with my husband, relationship with my kids, and now being able to show up with my grandkids in this whole new way that I never imagined I would be doing at 53 years old.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, that's so beautiful. And, I was just earlier today reflecting on the ways that I think sometimes, as, we all remember that, all moms remember that moment when you have a newborn and perhaps for the first time and you have to do everything for them and your stress level quickly increases, right? Like the amount that's on your plate and what you have to do for these little people. But I think that there is this issue that sometimes comes up. It's as if we become, so as the water's boiling, we have more kids, we have more things we have to do, we're spread thinner. But then it's almost as if we keep the water boiling.
Yes.
Right? It's almost as if these systems we've put into place. And I have a dear friend, we were together one time, and her 10-year-old and then her 13-year-old came to us and they were like, I'm hungry. And she was like, okay, just a minute. I just want to finish this conversation. Like, no, I'm hungry. And she was like, okay, fine. So she stopped our conversation and went and cooked them something. And I remember thinking, if my 10-year-old couldn't get herself her own lunch, I've done something wrong. And this isn't a judgment on my friend, but it's more of a recognition of how hard those systems are when we're the one doing all of it. And I gently said something to my friend, and she said, but he might make a mess. And I said, but he'll learn. And the reality is I might make a mess, right? When I make their lunch, I might make a mess. But the difference between living at peace in our home, having time for ourselves, not living from this place of constant guilt, it might just be those systems. I love that you said that.
Yeah. And it's so tricky when we have these systems in place. And of course, so much of, like I said, our identity can kind of be wrapped up in this life. And so one of the things that I work on with my ladies, and this is why I say all the time, that a lot of the standard internet advice that we get doesn't really fit in our lives because there are these other layers. It's not just a matter. You don't just have this extra hour sitting around where you were trying, whatever am I going to do in this hour? I have nothing to do. There's a whole other thing that has to happen outside of that where, yeah, we have to start outsourcing some responsibilities to people. Completely handing over ownership of tasks to somebody else who's old enough to handle it. And so that's how we make the time. But you're right. There's a whole journey of letting go because it might not be done exactly the way we wanted it done. The balls might get dropped in the short term. But yes, everybody learns this new rhythm. It has to be put into place slowly. Again, like respecting the family dynamic. But when the older kids start taking over responsibility for maybe a dinner once a week, or, one of the things my husband did is he took over the responsibility for dental appointments. And, with 8 kids, that's a big chunk of time. So, but all of these little things, and then all of a sudden, this is how I started being able to put my name on the calendar. Because when I was looking at the calendar, I could see my kids' lives, I could see my husband's life, I could see our marriage prep ministry was in there. I was not on the calendar. I did not exist on the calendar. So I had to start moving things around and say, okay, you're going to manage this and you're going to take care of this. And even now, when I'm out in the gym in the morning with some of my ladies, the kids know their responsibilities. They know what they need to do. They also know that I'm here. And my ladies know if my kids need me, they come out. Absolutely. I'm a mother first. But they know what they need to do. and they're getting it done.
Yeah.
But it did not happen overnight.
Yeah, yeah, I love that, and I think the practical is really helpful. So let's dive in a little more to that, especially because I think sometimes when I give my 2 cents on family systems and that kind of thing, it hits different because I have 4 girls, 2 of which are teenage girls, and so that's a different lived reality. I look at what my 18-year-old son is capable of, and I shouldn't say capable, but how he does things around the home, and you're like, can the 13-year-old daughter redo that, please? Right. So let's talk about some of those systems that you have put in place that you have found work really well, despite having a lot of boys.
A lot of boys. I think honestly, the first thing is I really had to let go. I had to let go of control. I have a house that has a lot of boys in it. It looks like a boy's house. Like, Home and Garden is not coming to feature my house anytime soon, right? So I think that was the big thing for me. Like, it was like, okay, I'm going to hand over these tasks. They're not going to get done the way I would do them. And to resist that urge to jump in and fix it. Let them learn. Let them experience the repercussions. The dishes weren't loaded properly, so they're dirty. So now guess what? You got to do it again. That was the number one job, I think, and the hardest one for me. But then I think really reassessing, like you mentioned, the 10-year-old, reassessing what your kids are capable of. Because I think in a lot of cases, they're capable of a lot more than we give them.
Yeah.
But what I find, what happened with me and what happened with a lot of the ladies that I've spoken with, is we hold on to that because that, again, that's who we are. We're the mother of this large family, or we've got whatever this is our identity. And so as the kids are kind of getting older and starting to live their own lives, I'm still needed because I do everything. Despite the fact that it doesn't work for my body anymore, it doesn't work for my mind, it doesn't work for my spirit. I'm exhausted, I'm resentful, I'm sore, I'm tired, but I'm going to keep pushing through because this is how I am needed, and this is who I am, and this is where I get my worth from my productivity. Yeah. So that's a whole that's a whole thing we have to kind of work through.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And really revisiting like these ways that are, it's as if they're coping mechanisms within our Catholic circles, and yet like we're missing, the bottom has fallen out, right? First and foremost, we're a daughter of the King. First and foremost, we need to learn to receive our Father's love for us just because he loved us, not because of the people we've grown or the systems we've created or the beautiful household we may or may not have. But instead, we've let all these other things distract us. And that probably is a great win for the devil, right? Like
it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's the reminder that you're right. We were loved before we ever rocked a baby.
Yeah.
We were loved before we ever figured out how to plan a menu and, grocery shop on a budget and all of these things. And we have to go back to that. Again, our worth and our value is not tied up in our productivity. It's not tied up in anything that's going on in the house. It's a gift to us, and it's been ours since the beginning.
Oh, so good. So good. Okay. So going back a little bit to our perimenopause, menopausal ladies. So what is the biggest mistake that you see women making in this season, especially in regards to physical fitness?
I think initially the biggest mistake is thinking that they're too far gone. It's too late. It's not for them, that there's a resignation to the way they're feeling. But when they actually decide, okay, I'm going to do this, I think the biggest mistake is jumping in with both feet and I know that sounds like the right thing. You want to go in with all of this enthusiasm. You want to give it 110%. But most of us coming into this season, we don't have a lot of margin. We don't have a lot of capacity for new things. And like we talked about earlier, there's so much other stuff that has to be happening as we are, especially if we have kids in the house, if we're going to start changing the way we're fueling our bodies, if we're going to start taking some time for ourselves, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that has to go on. But even just from our own energy, joint health, pelvic floor health, like you see online all the time, midlife women should be lifting heavy. Everybody should be lifting heavy. And lifting heavy is earned. Right? Like we do have to come in here and we have to make sure that those joints are stable. We have to make sure that your pelvic floor can handle the load. We have to make sure that your form is good. So it can be painfully slow in the beginning for women who are used to just pushing through and fixing things and getting everything right, to force them to kind of slow down and take rests and fuel their bodies appropriately. Like, honestly, I think sometimes the nutrition piece is the trickiest piece to get into place, because there's so much noise around women and food. And we've been, for us Gen Xers, like we've grown up with this through the 80s and into the 90s, and we're seeing a bit of a return to it now. Oh, my heart on that, but of this skinny at all costs, right? Yeah. And so we wanted to change that a little bit and say, okay, yes, you can have a fat loss goal. I am totally here for that if that's what you want, but let's look at form and function and strength and capacity and all of these things that are actually going to carry us through the rest of, our 50s, our 60s, our 70s, heck, even into our 80s and 90s. Like, why not? Let's just.
Yeah, for sure. That's so good. And I think piggybacking on that too, what about for the woman that feels like it really is too late for her, or she's never done this before. She's never done anything like taking care of her body physically before. So what do you say to that woman?
Well, I mean, that was me. I was not one of those where I was kind of a fitness girly when I was younger. I never did any of this sort of stuff until I was in my 40s. Because I was so, I had my first baby at 21. And so I was in this motherhood space where I was taking care of everybody else for a very long time. It wasn't until I hit that wall in my 40s that I thought something has to change. Mm-hmm. So to go from where I was, where I couldn't get to the mailbox and back without pain, where I needed help having my first squat. And I say that only because I really, really want women to hear this. No matter where you're at, you can get stronger. Like your body is amazing. It's forgiving, it's resilient. And a lot of times, I had a lady who started here a little while ago, and she's a little bit older. She's in her mid-60s. And we'd started with a very basic kind of a sit to stand movement where she was sitting on the box. And I said, okay, I just want you to stand up. And she said, I can't do that. And I said, well, I just want to see you try. Let's just check it out and see. And I said, I'm right here if you need help. I'm not going anywhere. And so she did it. And then she did it 9 more times. And she said, why did I think I couldn't do that? And I said, because you stopped doing it. Right? And so when women they struggle getting up off the floor, it's because they stopped getting down onto the floor. And that's not like a blame thing. That's just life. But it is amazing how your body will respond when you start getting back down on the floor again and you start getting back up And that's all it has to be. That's the beautiful thing. You don't have to get a big fancy gym membership and start doing all of these, what I call flip-flop fitness that you see online. You just need to start moving your body again. Give it a reason to start changing. Give it enough resistance that it has to change, and it will change.
So good. So good. Yeah, our bodies are just made so good.
Yes.
Right? It's amazing. Oh my gosh. Okay. So for all of you ladies that anything of what Mo said resonates with you, or you're just really feeling like you're stuck and struggling with perimenopause, I want to invite you to a workshop that Mo and I are both doing at the end of August. And we're going to be joined with 3 other incredible women. We're all going to be deep diving into specific topics, specifically on perimenopause for a week. Everything will be recorded and available to you afterwards. If you can't join us live, that's fine. If you can, there's lots of Q&A, which I'm super excited about. So the information will be linked up below, as well as the information to get in contact with Mo. She's such an amazing wealth of information. And I know that if you're feeling stuck, you'll love to follow her because she is just so inspirational. Thank you so much for your time today, Mo. I absolutely love this. I know this is going to be so great for the ladies that hear it as well.